Welcome to the 90-Second Navigator, the weekly course adjustment for your mind. We're focusing on managing time, on reaching goals, and on keeping life in perspective. I'm Joel Brookman, coach, author, and personal development specialist, and I'm here to get you where you want to go. So I want to talk about this concept of reducing stress. And as we talk about reducing stress, one of the most stressful events is coming back from vacation. Right? And as we're coming to the end of the year here, and in the United States, it's Thanksgiving week, and then it's going to be followed by the Christmas holidays, and so there's going to be a lot of us that are going to be taking vacation. And as I suggested, the tough part of vacation is coming back. And I've heard so many people say that, vacations are not worth it because what I have to come back to is so bad that it's not worth leaving in the first place. And I see that as being a shame. Right? We all need vacation. We need to take time away from what we do on a daily basis. It's an important thing. You're going to get burned out if you don't. It gives you perspective when you go on vacation and come back. It makes you better at whatever you do because having some white space in between makes a big difference because it allows you that perspective you need to move forward. It allows you to grow and it allows you to think a little bit differently. And it's important to get out of that myopic mindset of being at work every single day to have that perspective. And yet we start and focus and we worry about what's going to happen when we get back because we're going to be overwhelmed with everything that we have to deal with because of everything that we missed when we were gone. So here's the thing. There's this concept called flow. And runners get it when they reach their stride. Athletes get it in whatever endeavor they're doing. And this thing called flow is really important, and we get it at work too. And when you get there because you start cranking through things. And even if they may be stressful things, you're in the flow and you're just dealing with it one thing at a time and you're moving through it. And so the question is when you get back from vacation, once you get into the flow, the stress falls away. But you need to figure out a way to get into that flow, maybe gradually or even before you come back officially from that vacation. And so one of the thoughts I always have with doing it, and one of the things that makes life a little bit easier for me from coming back from vacation is to dig out first, to find a way to get into that flow before the rest of the world does. And so what I'll normally do here is I'll try to, let's say I'm coming back from vacation. I'll take my last vacation day and I'll start to work that day. And what I mean by that is I'll start by cleaning out my emails because then I know what's happened since I've been gone. And if I can take that time to go through one email at a time and just work through them and then create a to-do list for the things that I need to get done afterwards, all of a sudden when I get through that what I call email triage, things are not as bad anymore afterwards. I'm more able to deal with things because I'm caught up. Another way to do it is to connect with a colleague before the work week starts or before you're going to get into whatever the heavy lift is that you're going to have to deal with. If you can connect with a colleague and get caught up on everything, that can make a big difference. And then the third piece is simply to just immerse yourself in it. So Monday morning comes, and let's assume that's your first day back. Just get up early, and just immerse yourself in what you have to do. If you can get started ahead of time before the rest of the world, if you can get ahead of it, that's an important thing. If you can dig yourself out prior, that's an important thing. But all of it makes such a big difference. And if you can manage it well, you won't experience the same level of stress. And because the stress comes through the anticipation. It's a little bit like procrastination when you come back from vacation because it's things that are pent up since you left and now you have to deal with all of them, and it sometimes seems insurmountable because there's so much that you have to do. And it's not unlike those times when you've put things off until all of a sudden now you have to deal with it and it's overwhelming. It's a very similar situation. But the best way to deal with it is just to do it. Just to step in and do what you have to do as efficiently as you can. And get a sense of how large the task is. And that's where you create, you look at what's there, okay? You get into the flow and you figure out what you need to do, but this idea of the to-do list where you figure out all the tasks that you have and you chunk them down and prioritize them, then you start to realize the scope of what's at hand. So if you can wrap your brain around the scope and think about what you'll need to do it, and give yourself a time frame for accomplishing all these things, okay, now suddenly it's manageable. Now suddenly it's not so stressful. So it's sort of taking inventory, figuring out what needs to be done, putting together a timeline for getting it done, and making sure that this is all in a to-do list in a way that's easy for you to deal with. Because the challenge where the overwhelm comes in is when you just feel like you can't handle everything. But if you really think about it and you break it down and you can make it manageable for yourself and you put a plan against how you're going to do it, now it becomes much easier to deal with. Now the stress is less. And once you get into it, now you're moving forward and you're not dealing with it. So the combination of figuring out what needs to be done, chunking it down into manageable pieces so that you can do it, and then just simply getting into the flow and rolling up your sleeves and making it happen, and doing all that ahead of time before that Monday morning return, right? To start to get into the flow and start to get back into it. That will make your return much easier, and in turn, it'll make your vacation better because you know you've got it under control. You have a plan of attack for when you get back, and it's not going to be so overwhelming when you return. If you know of anyone that can benefit from hearing this episode, please send them a link and suggest that they subscribe. The link is joelbrookman.com, and from there they can click on other links to Apple or to Spotify, where they can pull in the show. Before we finish, let's just take a moment and get centered. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. Rise above your daily challenges, clear your mind, and use your inner wisdom to connect to a bigger picture. Join me next week for another episode of the 90-Second Navigator. But for today and for this week, start to think about what you can do when you return from vacation. Don't be afraid to take vacations just because of the overwhelm of the return. Plan to deal with what you have. And the way you plan to do it is you do it you get in ahead of it, right? Before you actually officially comes back. Dig out your inbox, figure out everything that you need, figure out whatever you missed, and then simply chunk it down, create a to-do list of everything that needs to be done, and then just get yourself back into that flow and just dive in. And once you're into the flow, the stress falls away.